Good morning, Caitlin. This is your machine, the Breville Barista Express in brushed stainless steel. I've just finished doing the refurbishment. So as you saw in the photos, this one is a used, good condition machine. It's been used for about a couple of years, so it's got wear and tear on the front where the cups go in and out. A few dent spots here, I think from the portafilter being accidentally hit on the back panel. Some minor wear and tear here and there. There's a small crack in the back of the bean hopper. It's invisible to the eye when you're standing in front of the machine, and even from the sides it's invisible. It's literally the size of a fingernail. And that's cosmetically. Functionally, the machine works like new. I've just finished adding a full solenoid assembly, which is really expensive, a new group head seal, 7 seals for the boiler and the pump and the pipes, so 7 new seals, and I think that was it. As I was doing the cleaning cycles and the pressure testing, I noticed that the pressure gauge can be a little bit hit and miss. So it will go to the full pressure, no problem, but sometimes it doesn't go back to 0. So it's on 0 now, and I've cleaned the pressure gauge as well. So it works better than when I first received the machine, but it's still not 100%, I would say, like new, if we're being accurate. It will go to 100% pressure, which is good, but sometimes it refuses to go back to 0. Honestly, you don't need a pressure gauge to make good coffee. So it's on full pressure now, 1 o'clock position. Actually, it went back to 0 now. Let's try that again. And then it gets stuck sort of almost at 0, but not quite. And then it goes back after a few seconds. So I'm not going to call this 100% like new pressure gauge, but I would say it's 90% of the way there. And yeah, sometimes it refuses to go back to 0. I'm not sure why. I think it's just age, wear and tear, etc. Alright. Anyway, on this machine, I'll be making my morning latte. It's 11 a.m. now. So I'll be grinding, I'll be brewing, I'll be using the steamer. I'm also going to test the hot water tab for you. In case this is your first coffee machine, I'll try to also teach you about how to make coffee, etc. So when you turn on the machine, it would take about a minute to reach full temperature, and that's for the boiler to reach full temperature. If you want your portafilter to be warm and your cups and all the internal components, I would recommend you do a warm-up shot. So if you leave the machine on for 10 minutes, things will warm up as well, passively. But if you want to actively warm it up, just run a blank shot. Press the double button, let it run, and it'll warm up your cup and all the internals pretty nicely. And that's going to ensure you get good tasting coffee and a hot cup of coffee. If you don't do this, your coffee may taste a bit sour and it may be a bit lukewarm. You can do that once or twice. Let's test the single button for you. Great. Your machine comes with a single and a double baskets, as pictured, and obviously the tamper and portafilter. I'm going to take the portafilter out and dry the basket. This double basket takes 18 grams of coffee, so I'm going to use my scale to dose that amount. Make sure it's nice and dry. Turn on my scale and make sure it's on 0, and then I'm going to start grinding. You can do the grinding in the full double quantity by selecting double here. I personally like to do on single and do that twice. It just reduces the mess that I sometimes get. So if I do the double quantity at once, it may sort of spill over because it'll be all the way up here, the coffee amount I mean. But if I do the single twice, it's a bit I'll show you what I mean. It'll give us an opportunity to compact the coffee down halfway. I've got the grind size on number 8 now. I haven't made a coffee on this machine yet, but I've had a look at the coffee grind consistency, and it seems to be close to what we want it usually. Grind size will dictate how fine or how coarse your coffee ground particles are. A smaller, finer grind size will slow down the shot when you brew it. A larger, coarser grind size will speed up your shots. We want the shot to take about 25 to 30 seconds, and we want the shot to be about 35 to 40 grams of coffee. So we'll try to put in 18 grams in here, and the output should be double that at about 36 grams, and that 36 gram shot should take 30 seconds. If that's too much info, then you can just ignore all that. I'm going to set up the machine to be giving you a good cup of coffee, or at least close to a good cup of coffee out of the box. You may have to tweak it a little bit, because if you use different beans, you may have to change the grind settings a little bit, but I'll put them in the ballpark area at least, so you can have an easier life when you start using this machine. Alright, grind size on 8, grind amount at 12 o'clock, grind size, filter size on single. So let's do that. And hopefully it'll give us 9 grams for the first dose. I'll double check that with the scale. My first dose, and it is 9.4. Not bad. I'll leave it there. Maybe I'll dial it back just a touch, actually. So it was at 12 o'clock. I'll put it at 11 o'clock. I'd rather go a little bit under versus a little bit over. So this is my 9 grams. And what I'm going to do, this is the key moment. You want to press the coffee down very lightly with the tamper, like this, to make space for the next dose. If you don't do this step, then when you grind the second dose, it'll form a little mountain, and then when you take this handle out, it'll spill on your drip tray. And that's going to confuse your results, because it's going to reduce the coffee in your portafilter. It's going to make a mess. Not ideal. Let's do that again on the 11 o'clock position. So that's the second dose. Before I press it down, I'm just going to measure 17.6. So that was 8.6 grams. I'd rather go a little bit under than a bit over again. So I'm going to leave it there. If you do this twice on the 11 o'clock mark, it'll give you 17 grams of coffee, which is okay. If you don't have a scale, that's totally fine. Just 2 tips I can give you to know that you have the correct amount of coffee. Firstly, when you do the grinding, before you press the coffee down, you'll notice that it's flush with the basket. So just like that. If you spread it around with your hands, which I recommend, you spread it with your hands, so that it's even when you press it down, you'll notice that it's up to the edge. And then, this is the other top tip. You grab the tamper, you press it nice and firm, make sure you apply even pressure all around. You can put it on the counter to help you press, but I'm going to press mid-air just for the sake of the video. You'll notice the depth of the coffee corresponds perfectly to the silver part on your tamper. So this tamper is designed to have the silver part, that's 6.5 millimeters, to tell you that you have the correct dose if it's flush with the rim as it sinks down. In other words, this is the depth of the coffee when you have the correct amount of coffee, and after you press it down with the tamper. So see, the silver part disappears, and I know for a fact that I've got the correct amount of coffee in the basket. If I press the coffee down and I can still see some of this silver, then that's too much coffee, and I need to trim it down, either by scraping off a bit of the top layer, or just discarding that and grinding again, whatever you prefer. And conversely, if the basket, if the tamper is too deep in the basket, so all the way down here, then that's too little coffee, and you know that you need to grind a little bit more. But hopefully now, if you keep it on the 11 o'clock position, you do it twice on the single using grind size 8, it should give you roughly the same as what I got here. Your mileage may vary depending on the bean roast, the bean age, etc. Now, coffee is ground. I'm gonna get rid of this hot water in my cup. I've got a hot water tap here if you want hot water for whatever reason. Breville designs it so you can put your cup underneath and turn it on, and it'll give you 220 mils of hot water for a standard Americano. You can stop it at any time, obviously, if you don't want a long black. So if you want a short black, just turn it on for a few seconds and it'll give you less water. But yeah, it gives you clean hot water straight from the boiler. You can use it for tea bags or for, I don't know, warming up your cups. I like to use it to warm up, I like to use it to add a little bit of hot water to my drink. When I add sugar, I want that sugar to dissolve, and that little bit of hot water at first helps it dissolve really well. And actually, whatever flavors you like to add to your coffee, I prefer you do them before your coffee, or add them to the cup before you brew the coffee, because if you add them now, as the coffee comes down, it'll mix nicely with the flavors. Whereas if you add the sugar or the flavors afterwards, it may not mix as easily. Make sure my cup is on 0. Now, we'll do the shot. We will do a few things. So firstly, I'm going to reprogram the button for you. So this button becomes a bit too long. From factory, it gives you 60 mils of coffee. That's too much for my liking. I'm going to reprogram it so that it gives us 40 grams of coffee, or 38-ish. I'm going to eyeball it, and I'm going to stop it when I think it's close to that 40 gram mark. Again, you don't need a scale. You can do what I do now and eyeball it. But what I'll do is I'll confirm with the scale just to give you and myself peace of mind. I'm going to press the program button, then I'm going to press the button I want to program. The pressure gauge should work. It should be about 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock position for a perfect coffee. Again, 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock is perfect. It's about 12 o'clock now. And I will stop it right there. So that took 20 seconds. Quicker than I wanted, I'll be frank with you. I was hoping it lasts 30 seconds, but let's see. That's 44 grams. So a bit more than I wanted, but that's okay. Now the next time you make coffee and you press the double button, it'll give you roughly the same amount of coffee, around 44 grams. If you grind a little bit finer, it'll give you a bit less than 40 grams, a little bit less than that. But anyway, I think this setting now is better than what comes out of factory when you buy this machine new. So use it, and if you want to change it, you know how to change it now. Again, you press the you press the program button, then the button that you want to program. It'll make coffee, and then press it again to stop. Excuse me. Now, our shot ran a little bit too quick because I think the grind size is a little bit too large. So it gave us 40 grams in 20 seconds. If you can imagine, if we grind a little bit finer by 1 or 2 numbers, it will bring us down to the 30-second mark instead of the 20-second mark. So now if I do the same settings, same everything, press the double button, it'll take 20 seconds to give us that 40 gram shot. If I reduce the gram by 2 numbers, 1 or 2 numbers I would say, it'll probably convert that 20-second shot into a 30-second shot, which will probably taste a little bit better. But I'll leave it there. I'm not going to waste this shot. I think it's perfectly drinkable, especially if you add sugar and milk to your coffees. You won't notice the intricacies of coffee settings or different brew settings. It's a little bit on the sour side, but honestly, very drinkable. Very drinkable on its own. Obviously, it's got sugar, but if I make this into a latte, it'll probably taste really good. Now, I'm going to quickly do the cleaning. So take this quart filter out, give it a good knock into the bin, and then give it a flush. I like to flush after as well. That's going to clean our group head. It's going to clean our portafilter. So you don't have to take this all the way to the sink. You just do that once or twice and it's nice and clean. If you want to be extra nice to your machine, grab a tissue or a cloth and give the group head a wipe. It'll pick up on some coffee granules and oils that you may have missed. Even when you flush, it's not going to pick up on everything around the sides and crevices. So I recommend you do that if you have a bit of time. You can store your portafilter up here. You can put it down here. I'm happy with either. I might leave it here just because next time you turn on the machine, the portafilter will be nice and warm if it's up here. So yeah. Now, that's the espresso shot. If I add hot water to it, it becomes an Americano. If I add steamed milk, it becomes a latte. Now this machine at this price doesn't come with a milk jug. I'm going to be using my own. The basics of steaming are, you want the milk to be, you want the jug to be metal so you can feel the temperature. You want the milk to be out of the fridge because it'll give you more time to texturize the milk and give it that froth. And when you start the steamer and put it in, you want to create like a little vortex in the milk that keeps the milk spinning the whole time, and that helps it distribute the texture. So if you don't do the vortex, you may get the top being frothy and the bottom not being frothy or something like that. But if you keep it spinning, it'll be more even. And lastly, the depth of the wand will dictate how much froth you get. So if I put the tip of the wand all the way down to the bottom of the jug, it's just going to heat up the milk. It's not going to give us any foam. If you want the milk to be aerated to get more froth and more foam, you bring this tip closer to the surface of the milk. So as I'm spinning it in a vortex, I can lower the jug so that the tip becomes closer to the surface of the milk. That gives us more texture. I'll demonstrate that now. And you can even hear the difference in sound when you're going superficial versus deep into the milk. I'll turn it on. Typically takes about 15 seconds to start steaming. As a single boiler machine, it'll have to heat up the boiler from 90 all the way to 130 to steam that milk, or to boil that water. There we go. Give it a few seconds and it'll get even stronger. There we go. I'm going to turn it off, then position myself and then put it back on. So now I'm spinning the milk, keeping the wand at an angle and keeping it close to the edge of the jug. Not in the center, close to the edge. And it's spinning the milk. Now if it stays deep in the milk, it's not going to make any foam, and it sounds like this. Whereas if I lower my jug, it will sound different. Listen to this. Sorry, this range hood fan is not helping. But if I keep it deep in the milk, it's just going to spin and make very little noise. Whereas if I raise it, drop my jug, it'll give me this hissing sound. And that tells me that it's giving me foam into the milk. And I'm going to keep it there until it's too hot to the touch. When it's too hot to the touch, I'm going to turn it off. And that's typically about 60 to 65 degrees. And there. Now, before you let the machine cool down, give it a good purge, just to clean the inside of any milk. And then 5 seconds later, the machine will auto cool down. And once you see the buttons light up, it's ready to make another coffee. So the temperature is back to 90 degrees for coffee brewing. Which is pretty smart. So believe it or not all coffee machines have this feature. After you finish the milk, make sure you get a wet towel and scrub the wand. It'll get really hot. It'll bake the milk on top of it if you don't clean it straight away. It'll be a pain to clean tomorrow, so just do it today. And that's all done. Now with the milk, you want to grab the jug and knock it on the counter to break any air bubbles, and spin it around to mix it up. Do this a few times until the surface is nice and smooth, like wet paint, if you've ever seen that. Very nice. And pour. There we go. Beautifully steamed milk from the Barista Express. You can do latte art if you have a bit of time on your hands and do a bit of trial and error. I try every now and then to get a heart or a tulip or whatever, but what matters to me more is that it tastes good. This one looks decent and it probably will taste really good, as far as I can tell. I'm sure you can do the same and even better coffees with some practice. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy this machine, and if you have any questions, please let me know. I'm more than happy to help you, and yeah, I'll see you soon. Cheers.